Hey guys, welcome to DIY Crafts. In this video, I'm going to share the step-by-step pattern of making this cute crochet amigurumi couple hearts. So let's get started. For this, I'm using two different colors of 4-ply yarns and a crochet hook of size 3 mm. So let's begin with one of the colors. Begin with a magic ring. Now make chain 1 and make 10 single stitches into the center. That's the first one, second, third, fourth, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So by the end of the first row we will have 10 single stitches. Now close the magic ring by pulling the tail end tightly. Now let's start making the second row. So for this, insert the hook into the first stitch and make one single stitch. Again into the same stitch, make another single stitch. So this is the beginning of the second row. So to mark this, use a stitch marker and insert it into the first stitch that we have made for the second row. Now let's continue to make increases, that is 2 single stitches going into the same stitch. So continue this throughout the row until you reach the starting point. So watch careful, that's one single stitch and make another single stitch in the same stitch. So that we call it as increase. Make 2 single stitches in each and every stitch until you reach the starting point. So by the end of the row 2, we will have 20 stitches in our second row. Now we have come to the last stitch. So make the last increase, that's first one and the second stitch. So as we reach the stitch marker, row 2 is completed. So remove the stitch marker and let's begin with row 3. Make one single stitch and put the stitch marker back in place to mark the beginning of the third row. Continue making one single stitch in each of the stitches until you reach the starting point. Now we are making the last stitch in third row. So make one single stitch and this completes the third row with 20 stitches. Now remove the stitch marker and make one single stitch and mark the beginning of the fourth row. So put the stitch marker back in place. This marks the beginning of the fourth row. So for row 4 to row 6, we are going to continue to make one single stitch in each of the stitches. So we will have 20 stitches in each row. Now make the last stitch for the 6th row and this completes the first part of the pattern. Repeat the same pattern from row 1 to row 6 with the second color. Put this aside and make another one in the same pattern. So here it is done already. Now we are going to join these two parts together to make the couple heart. Remove the stitch marker from both the heads and let's join them as shown. Insert the hook into one of the loops and draw the second loop through the first one. Watch it carefully. Here I am drawing the yellow color thread through the blue color one. That's it. After joining them, secure the joint tightly and then start making row 7. So for row 7, just continue to make one single stitch in each of the next stitches. After making 20 single stitches, we are reaching the joint where you need to change the color. So watch it carefully. Now we are done with 19 single stitches. So let's make the 20th one. So insert the hook into the single stitch and drop a loop. Hold it here and change the color. For this, drop yellow color thread and grab the blue color one and finish your single stitch with the blue color yarn. Again, make the joint tightly and continue to make single stitches from the next stitch. So that is the 21st stitch. Continue to make the remaining 19 single stitches until you reach the joint. Now we are making the last single stitch in row 7. So stop it here and change the color as shown. Now let's start making row 8. For this, begin with 2 single stitches. That's the first single stitch and the second single stitch. Now we have to make one invisible decrease. For this, insert your hook into the front loops of the next 2 stitches and then make a single stitch. This we call it as an invisible decrease. Now make one single stitch in each of the next 12 stitches. That's the second one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and the 12th one. Now make another invisible decrease. That is, insert the hook into the front loops of the next 2 stitches, drop a loop and make a single stitch. Now make the last 2 single stitches and change the color. Secure the color change tightly and now continue with the pattern of 2 single stitches followed by an invisible decrease. That's the first single stitch and another single stitch. Now making an invisible decrease, that is inserting the hook into the 2 front loops of the next 2 stitches and making a single stitch. Now make 12 single stitches. So after making the 12 single stitches, that's the 11th one and this is the 12th one. Now we have to make one invisible decrease. So make this invisible decrease and now make the last 2 single stitches and finally change the color to complete your row 8. This completes our 8th row. Now let's start making the row 9. For this, begin with 2 single stitch. That's the first single stitch. Now make the second single stitch. Now perform an invisible decrease. Now make one single stitch in each of the next stitches. Now this is the 3rd one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10th one. Now continue the pattern. Make one invisible decrease. Then make 2 single stitches. That's 1 and by the second one need to change the color. So drop the yellow thread and grab the blue one and complete your single stitch. Now make 2 single stitches. That's the first one and the second one. Now make 1 invisible decrease. Again make 10 single stitches. Now after making the 10 stitches, perform 1 invisible decrease. Then make 2 single stitches to complete your row 9. That's the first single stitch and the second single stitch with a color change, and this completes our 9th row. This is how our pattern looks like after making 9 rows. Now let's start making our 10th row. For this, begin with 2 single stitches with yellow color. That's the first one and the second one. Now make 1 invisible decrease. Now make single stitches in next of the 8 stitches. That's the third one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So after making 8 single stitches, now we have to make 1 invisible decrease. These invisible decreases helps us to get the shape of the heart better. So after making invisible decrease, make 2 single stitches and change the color at the second single stitch. Secure the thread tightly. Now make 2 single stitches again. That's 1 and the second one. Now make another invisible decrease. Then again make 8 single stitches. That's the first one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Now make another invisible decrease on the other side. Make the last 2 single stitches to complete the 10th row. Drop the blue color and grab the yellow color thread and complete the single stitch. This finishes our 10th row. Now before going to the 11th row, just stop it here. Now we are going to work for the hands of our couple heart. We are going to make 1 hand in each color. So let's begin with the blue color one. Begin with a slip knot and make 13 chains. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13th one. Now watch the pattern carefully. We have to make 1 slip stitch from the second stitch from the hook. Now chain 2 and slip stitch in the second stitch from the hook. Again chain 2 and make another slip stitch into the second stitch from hook. Now make another slip stitch into the 12th chain in the base chain. So that's the first stitch we have made. So perform a slip stitch. So all these 3 together will make a hand of a blue heart side. Okay, now continue to make slip stitch throughout the chain until you reach the first chain. So after making all the slip stitches into the base chain, trim the thread by leaving the tail end. So these tail ends are helpful for us to attach it to the base of the heart. Now take the heart base and check the position of the hand. You should attach it around the rows 7 and 8 on the blue side. Now take the yarn needle and with the help of this, attach it to the base. Now make a knot using these two tail ends to secure the hand in place. Do not cut the ends, just put them in as stuffing. Now check the position of the hand on the other side. Now with the help of a small amount of yarn and a needle, attach it as shown. Now make a knot using both the tail threads and stuff in the ends. Now let's continue to make the base of the couple heart. We are at the beginning of row 11. So change the color. Make 2 single stitches. Then make 1 invisible decrease. Now make 1 single stitch in each of the next 6 stitches. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the 6th one. Now make another invisible decrease. Then make 2 single stitches. That's the first single stitch and the second single stitch. And now make a color change. This completes the half part in the row 11. Now for the remaining half, again begin with a single stitch, another single stitch. That's a total of 2 single stitches, and make 1 invisible decrease. Now make 6 single stitches. That's the first one, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the 6th one. Now make another invisible decrease. And make 2 single stitches next. That's the first one and second one with a color change. This completes our row 11. So secure the color change and make 1 single stitch. This is the beginning of row 12, but hold on. Put this aside and let's start making the hand for yellow side. Leave some tail end and begin with a slip knot. So this yellow hand should be slightly smaller than the blue one. So I am just making 12 chains, whereas the blue one is having the 13 chains. So after making the 12 chains, make a slip stitch from the second stitch on the hook. Okay, that's the second stitch. Make a slip stitch. This forms the first finger of the hand. Now make chain 2 and make a slip stitch from the second stitch on the hook. Another chain 2 and make a slip stitch into the second stitch from the hook. So these 3 fingers we need to join them. So again insert the hook into the 11th chain and make another slip stitch. So this completes the hand part of the yellow hand. Now continue making the slip stitch throughout the chain. This makes the yellow hand complete. After making all the slip stitches, chain 1 and trim the excess thread by leaving a little long tail. These tail ends will help us to add them to the base. This extra piece of yarn is used to attach the hand part on the blue side. Now take back the base of the heart and with the help of the wool needle, just like the previous one, attach it to the base of the body. After attaching both the hands, now it's time to stuff the heart. So take enough fiber fill and stuff into both the heads of the heart. With the time being, the fiber fill tends to shrink. So make sure you stuff it enough. After putting in the fiber fill, let's continue to work the base of the couple heart. Now insert the hook into the loop and let's begin row 12. We have already done one single stitch there. So make another single stitch in the next stitch. So together we have done 2 single stitches now. Now make one invisible decrease. Now make 4 single stitches. That's the first one. Two, 3 and the 4th one. As you are reaching the close of the project, making an invisible decrease would be little bit challenging. So do not miss the pattern, just continue as shown. So now make another invisible decrease. Then make 2 single stitches. That's the first one and the second one. Here hold it and change the color. Now let's work from the blue side. Secure the join, tighten it up and now make 2 single stitches. That's the first one and now make an 1. Now make another invisible decrease. Now continue making 4 single stitches. 1, 2, 3 and the 4th one. Now make another invisible decrease. And make the last 2 single stitches to complete the row 12. Do not forget to change the color at the end of the last single stitch. This completes your 12th row. Now let's start making row 13. Now for row 13, begin with the first single stitch. Then make another single stitch. Now make 1 invisible decrease. Then make 2 single stitches. That's the first one and the second one. Now make another invisible decrease. Now make the next 2 single stitches. That's the first one and during the second one change the color. Now make the remaining half of the heart in blue shape. in blue color. Secure the color change. Now make 2 single stitches, that's the first one and the second one. Now make another invisible decrease. Now make 2 single stitches, that's the first one and the second one. Now perform an invisible decrease. And then make the 2 single stitches. That's the first single stitch. And now the second single stitch, completing with a different color. This completes the row. Secure the color change. Now make 2 single stitches in the next 2 stitches. It's the beginning of the next row. That's one and the second one. Just stop it here and let's put the stuffing in it. Take a very little amount of fiber fill and gently insert it into the heart. Now let's start making row 14. So we have already done the first 2 single stitches. Now we have to make 1 invisible decrease. As I've already told you, coming to an end challenges us to finish the project. So carefully make an invisible decrease. Now make another invisible decrease. Now make 2 single stitches. Just carefully manage the threads so they will not tangle. This is the second one. So drop the yellow thread, grab the blue color and change the color. Again make 2 single stitches, that's the first one and the second one. Now make 2 invisible decreases. That's the first one and now make another invisible decrease carefully. Now make the last 2 single stitches to complete your row 14. Again change the color on the top of the last single stitch. This completes the 14th row. Secure the color change tightly. Now let's make row 15. So for row 15, begin with 1 single stitch. Then make 2 invisible decreases. Make them carefully so that you will not leave any stitch or any loop. So that's the first invisible decrease. Turn your work and make the second invisible decrease. Now make the last single stitch with a color change. Secure the color change. Now continue the pattern. 1 single stitch and make 2 invisible decreases. That's the first invisible decrease. Now make another invisible decrease. One single stitch and this completes our row 15. Secure the color change tightly. Now let's start making row 16. So begin with 1 invisible decrease. Now turn your work and make another invisible decrease. with a color change. So drop the yellow color thread, take the blue color one and complete the invisible decrease. Secure the work and let's start making with the blue color again. That's the first invisible decrease. Turn your work and make the second invisible decrease. This completes the row 16. Again closing with a different color thread. Now chain 1 and fasten off by leaving a long tail. This completes the base of the couple heart. You can see how beautifully it had turned out. Now let's add the detailing to the project, which makes it complete. Now with the help of a yarn needle, secure the work and weave in the ends as shown. One of the tail ends is brought to the top in order to make it as a keychain. So if you wanted to make it just as a showpiece, you can eliminate this step. However, I am showing it to you how to make a keychain out of it. So with the help of this tail end, make a chain of 22 to 23 or however length you wanted for your keychain, and just make a slip stitch to the first stitch and then weave in the ends using the yarn needle. You can just put a key ring on the hole, or you can just hang it as it is in your car. It will be a good add-on accessories to your cars. Now let's add additional detailing to the couple heart like eyes and mouth to get the finished look. Here I am using the fabric glue and a black kundans. You can even use safety eyes or just embroider them with a black thread. Adjust them and leave it to dry completely. And after it got dried, this is how our final product looks like. I hope you all enjoyed watching this tutorial. Please give it a try and let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. See you all in the next video. Thank you for watching. Please like the video, share it and subscribe to DIY Crafts.